tonight, tomorrow. The first Yahrzeit, was culminating our first year of Weil, and most of you were with us when we had a shiur with Rabbi Silber at Keter Torah. And last year, it was Thanksgiving weekend. Remember that Thanksgiving thing? So Rabbi Baum graciously gave a shiur on Shabbos between the Chamarim and dedicated that shiur to Chuck last year on Shabbos. And this year we were thinking what to do, and it just felt right to do it at home. And Hanukkah really is such a symbolic holiday of the home. We all light our menorahs at home, and it's a very home-based holiday. And the home and the family was what kept Chuck going his entire life, and especially in his last years, as he was struggling with his illness. His famous line was, "The family is my refuah." And all of you here are people who were so important to all of us. We'll just never forget all of your acts of kindness, and you're visiting, you're driving, you're bringing food, dropping things off, and remember Joe had to set up a Visit Chuck schedule on a Google Calendar because we were so inundated with visitors. We had to stream them out in a way that was comfortable and not overwhelming. So you've all been an important part of our lives over all the years we've been in Teaneck, the community, the boys that Michael grew up with, Joe grew up with, that Mindy's close group of friends, and our close group of friends, and we so appreciate your coming here. It means a lot to all of us. And Chuck really, in his last years, when he had to give up practicing medicine, which he loved so much, with Rabbi Baum as his teacher, he turned to learning, and he found that he loved learning, and it is no more fitting way to commemorate the Yahrzeit than having a shiur in his honor. And we had, there was a sponsorship, Michael, Joe and Daniel sponsored. Rabbi Brahmander gives a series on the Yom Tovim in Yerushalayim, so he just gave a shiur last week on Hanukkah. Esty is sponsoring a shiur a week from the Shabbos in her shul. Mindy and Eric sponsored a scholar in residence. So, we've learned the lessons well, and he would be very proud of the way everybody is responding and learning the lessons and appreciating the learning. And I'm very lucky that I've made the acquaintance of my friend and neighbor, Rabbi Weil, who moved to Teaneck how many years ago, Rabbi Weil?
4 years.
How many?
4 years.
4 years ago, and has graciously opened his home to the community, really, and become a friend. I've enjoyed many Shabbos dinners in their lovely home, and we thought, it would be a nice opportunity to have Rabbi Weil gave a shiur, who also, he even remembers Chuck from his early days at Frisch. When he first started out, he remembers Chuck coming in when he was president of Frisch, coming in and out of the school. So I'm honored that you were able to come tonight and give the shiur in memory of Chuck. I welcome Rabbi Baum. I thank you for being here, a staunch friend, a loyal, dedicated friend, really someone a friendship that really grew into love between you and Chuck. And I really appreciate you being here, and every single person who's here is really wonderful. So thank you. Rabbi Weil, please. If it's a little bit warm, we could open. Is it open? Okay. So we could open some, we could get some air if we need to.
First of all, I want to wish everyone a happy Hanukkah. Two things. The first time we lived in New Jersey, when we lived in Livingston, Dr. Feldman had a second job, and that was the Frisch School. Daniel at the time was a freshman, And he rolled up his sleeves. We didn't make it easy on him, but under his tenure, the school grew by about 30%. Not only did it grow quantitatively in terms of numbers, it grew qualitatively as well. And he was a real mentor to the senior leadership as well as he was to the staff. One thing Rabbi Baum always told me, my rabbi, Rabbi Baum, said that the highlight of his week is when he could learn the Ramban. When he learned with Dr. Feldman, the two of them would come, they'd learn together, they'd wrestle with issues, they would do philosophical Rambans, they would do legal Rambans. So we thought tonight we definitely wanted to include the Ramban, and that's going to be hopefully the climax of what we get to. Maybe one of the greatest fights, one of the greatest historical intellectual debates between Maimonides, the Rambam on one hand, and Nachmanides, who was a great fan of Dr. Feldman, and Dr. Feldman was a great fan of the Ramban. We'll get to that a little bit later. So the topic really is the issue of Hanukkah. The Rambam does something very strange. The Rambam is what we'd call a juridic work. It's a legal work. His magnum opus, the Mishnah Torah. And all of a sudden he starts going into the whole history of Hanukkah. And everybody gets their back hairs up. Since when did the Rambam become a historian? And why here was the one case that he talked about Jewish history? So we're going to analyze that famous Rambam and try to explain why the Rambam did that. Another question that bothers everyone is if you take a look, what does it say? It says the Rambam Hilchos Megillah v'Chanukah. The Rambam could have had the laws of Megillah, and he could have had the laws of Hanukkah. Those are two separate holidays. There's Purim and Hanukkah. Why did he put them together? That's another question everyone asks about the Rambam. Why put the two together? Like if you notice, where does he begin? Instead of chapter Aleph, the first chapter, no, it's Perek Gimel. It's like in the middle of the story of Megillah Esther and Purim, he starts in Hanukkah. And that's another question everybody wrestles with, we'll come back to. But what does the Rambam do? The Rambam says the following. B'bayis Sheni, during the context of the Second Commonwealth, what had happened, and I'm going to guess here that most